Welcome to Forex Daybreak, a daily podcast where we cover 8 Forex pairs and give you our view on the market direction for these pairs. If you are trading Forex market, this is the #1 show to start your trading day. Now, let's begin today's episode.
Good morning everybody and welcome to Forex Daybreak episode 13. In this daily Forex update, I will give you my view on 8 Forex pairs I analyze using Elliott wave principle. My name is Ville Vainio and today is 25th of August 2015. Show notes for this episode can be found at forexdayBreak.com/13. Now let's get started. Okay, yesterday was quite an interesting day, to say the least, on the Forex market and also on most of the world's markets. S&P 500, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell very hardly. Chinese stock index fell. Also Nikkei index in Japan fell. European stock indices fell. So almost all of the major stock markets were crashing yesterday, and this was also seen in the Forex market. Very large moves yesterday on yen pairs. Euro was up hundreds of pips on most of the pairs, so quite a devastating day on the markets yesterday, and this might be the start of something much larger, and these days will be more frequent when the markets are crashing. So let's dive right into the markets and start with Euro USD. So like I said yesterday, a very powerful day. We went right through the 161.8% Fibonacci level, which is at 116.09, but eventually this level held and acted as resistance level. We have now come a little bit down from that level. We are now at 115.3 and perhaps forming a corrective phase right here and possibly even a turnaround. My wave count is proposing that this is still a 4th wave correction and possibly the last wave up of this correction. So let's see how this develops. If this forecast or analysis is correct, then we should see a larger move down on this pair. Let's take a look at the key levels since yesterday. So like I said, the 161.8% Fibonacci level at 116.09 is the resistance on the upside. Downside 114.67 is the support. This is the minor wave W peak, the recent high before this new high. So those are the key levels. Taking account the high volatility on the markets on the past couple of days, or yesterday was the big day, I would not necessarily enter any trades because there can be powerful moves on both sides, on up and down. If you have the stomach for it, there can be profits made. My wave count is proposing that this is possibly turned down and might move down quite hard, but at this point it is very hard to say for sure. We could be making a correction here and continuing higher, but let's see how this develops during the day and if we get near the same volatility than yesterday. Okay, next is dollar yen, and this is quite absurd looking chart. Yesterday dollar yen declined almost 600 pips, and this is quite a large move. One of the biggest move I've seen, I think. Perhaps even the biggest I have seen, I haven't checked, but almost 600 pips yesterday. And of course the wave count I had was thrown out the window since this move was so devastating, and now the new wave count is proposing that the larger move down has begun on a daily chart. This is seen quite clearly, so the recent peak at 125.83 approximately would be the final wave of this large multi-year bull market, and now we might have started the next phase on this large correction, or even a new large impulsive wave down. But all of this is too early to say for sure. I have labeled the recent move as minute wave 3 to the downside, and if this analysis is correct, the larger move down has begun and will at least occupy months of dollar yen. Key levels on the short term, 120.45 is the next resistance. This is minute wave 1 low, and 118.23 is a support level on the downside. Since the moves yesterday were so large, the key levels are also quite wide apart, so perhaps during the day we will form some new resistance and support levels. So let's see how this goes today. Also, taking account the large volatility yesterday, trading right now can be quite risky. Perhaps it is best to stand aside for a while to see how the markets are now settling down. The moves so far today have been quite large on some of the pairs, so maybe it's best to step aside and watch these fireworks go off. Next is pound dollar, and compared to the other market moves, this has been quite anemic still. A slight upwards push has been made here, but nothing compared to the other moves, nothing major has still happened here. This is possibly one of the only pairs that hasn't moved almost nowhere in the past, I would say, few weeks. Key levels on pound dollar are more or less the same. Upside level, key level on the upside is 157.88, and on the downside 156.9. The recent resistance is now as a support level. The wave count is still the same. Maybe this is the start of one wave higher, but this is not looking impulsive, so I haven't changed the wave count on this pair at all. We will just have to see how this forms, since pound and dollar both are very, very weak right now, and in my opinion this is the reason this is not moving anywhere. Let's jump to euro pound, and a different story here altogether. Very big move yesterday. We are now at 0.7318. The high yesterday was 0.7421 maybe. I have slightly altered my wave count and labeled these waves, and now I am proposing that we are now on later stages of the corrective move higher, and perhaps one more wave up will be forming before a turn down. And let's see if this is indeed already turned down, or if we get still one move higher. It is looking bearish right now. For the past few hours we have been declining. Key levels on Euro Pound 0.722 is the downside support. Recent few peaks have been the support level. On the upside 0.7379. This has been strong. Resistance has held on multiple occasions. Those levels are ones to watch for. And this recent strong push also stopped at 0.7379. The high is of course higher, but the close is below that level. So perhaps this has held again and will contain this upwards move on Euro Pound. Next is Euro Yen. The strong move yesterday made my previous wave count obsolete. I have revised the count slightly, and this is more or less the count I had before I revised it. So this count is proposing that we are now forming the last leg of this large correction. We should get a move to the downside, perhaps even a quite strong move to the downside. The latest high, which was at 141 approximately, I have now labeled it as minor wave X of intermediate wave 2 correction, which would be double 3 correction. And we have formed A and B waves to the downside of the last part, minor wave Y of this intermediate wave 2. This is possibly quite hard to figure out on the audio podcast, but in the video, which is available at ForexDayBreak.com, it will be more evident when you see the daily chart I just looked at. So more downside I'm looking for in Euro Yen. Key levels 139 is the immediate resistance on the upside, and 137.07 on the downside will act as support. Again, the large moves yesterday are causing that the key support and resistance levels are quite far apart in my analysis. Next is Pound Yen. Same story here. Very large move to the downside, and a revision was needed on the wave count since we made a new low. And also the same story than in Euro Yen. I went back to my previous wave count, which was saying that the latest high was indeed the end of the large bullish move higher, multi-year bullish wave, intermediate degree wave 5, and also primary wave A, or even the whole correction from the very large decline that has lasted decades. But now this latest development is minor wave 3 to the downside. The latest peak was minor wave 2, and now we are forming minor wave 3. So more downside is expected in pound yen. I wouldn't necessarily trade this right now since the volatility is so high and the moves can be very violent on both directions. So perhaps it is also best to stand aside in this pair. Key levels on pound yen are that upside resistance around 189.38. On the downside, 186.27 is the immediate support level. We are now at 189.128. So this 186 is not so immediate at this point. Same story here. Since there has been so large moves up and down, the low between the low and high today is almost 300 pips in this pair, so the moves can be quite fast and volatile. So let's see what today brings. This can be an interesting week on the markets, on the Forex and all other markets as well. Next is Euro Canadian. Same story, very large moves, almost went to new long-term highs. We got very close to the recent peak, which is back in 2014. March 2014 is the latest high before this large decline, and this pair Euro Canadian has moved close to 1,200 pips in a couple of weeks, less than 2 weeks, so this is quite a large move. And the past 5 days has been the majority of this move, so over 1,000 pips in 1 week. This is quite a nice move. And also this pair was more or less on a sideways range for a couple of months before that, so this is a very big move. I have labeled this latest peak as minute wave C and the completion of this whole big correction. We should now turn down and get a prolonged downturn on this pair. So let's see if this analysis proves to be correct. Key levels on Euro Canadian are that upside, the next resistance is the high I mentioned, 155.6. So 2014 March high is the next resistance level if we go even higher. If we break that level, this whole structure is not corrective wave 2, so there's some other wave count then more appropriate here if we break that March 2014 high. On the downside, 152.34 is the support level, and I have labeled this as completed wave, minor wave C, off minor wave Y, off intermediate wave 2. So a large correction has possibly completed now and turned a multi-month bear market to the downside. Okay, finally is US dollar Canadian. Yesterday we made a slight new high. Not such a big moves here than in most of the other pairs. And I have labeled this latest high as minute wave B of this fourth wave correction. We should now turn down towards the recent fourth wave low, 128.6 approximately should be the bottom for this correction. Key levels on US dollar Canadian are more or less the same. The support level is the 132.12, latest minute wave 3 peak, and on the upside 133.8 to 161.8 retracement level, Fibonacci level. So those are the same levels than yesterday. And I wouldn't do anything with this pair since this is on a corrective sideways move. If you want, there can be a trade made to the downside. There is 300 pips to go on the fourth wave low, but this can be a choppy and nerve-wracking ride since this is a correction. So perhaps it's best to stay aside the better part of this week and just watch those volatile moves on those pairs that are moving very rapidly. Okay, that's all for today's episode. Visit the show notes at ForexDayBreak.com/13 and leave your comments on that page. Now, thanks for listening. Now go make some profits if you have the stomach for the volatility. I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye.
Thanks for your interest in Forex Daybreak Daily Podcast. If you like this show, we hope you'll visit our website, www.ForexDayBreak.com, and tell your friends about us. Be sure to check the show notes on our website for this episode. Join us next time for another episode of Forex Daybreak.